Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Wells. I write horror, fantasy, and science fiction, and I talk about games on the internet. Today we're talking about Tales from the Loop, which is one of the spearhead RPGs that came from Sweden into the US. There's enormous movement of Scandinavian RPGs coming into the US market right now. And Tales from the Loop is maybe not the first, but certainly the most famous and the most successful. It's an absolutely wonderful game based on an art book, of all things. If you've heard of the Amazon series, it is also based on the art book. The original book was by Simon Stalenhag, who is the creator of the role playing game as well. And it's basically this kind of art that you see here in the box and then also behind me. A combination of old, mundane, everyday life with incredibly evocative images of new technology and robots and weird things, and hover things in the background or whatever these weird towers are. The idea behind it, and let's go into the PDF so I can show this off, is that just off the coast of Sweden, there's a giant particle accelerator underneath this little town. And that's what the Loop is. The big particle accelerator is called the Loop. And they do all of these crazy experiments with new technology and new ideas and weird stuff like that. And then the town above is kind of littered with the odd supernatural effects and sometimes the actual physical detritus of these experiments. There are robots, there are weird abandoned structures, there are weird still functioning structures, there are giant hover trains that move things across the world. It's just a really cool combination of the mundane and the fantastical. The core game is set in Sweden, though the book does include an entire chapter about how to set the game in the US as well, if you really want to do that. And so there's two loops, one in Sweden and one in New Mexico in the US. So the game is really clever and really fun in the way that it focuses on kind of a Stranger Thingsy kind of vibe to it. Although the game actually does predate Stranger Things by a little bit. The idea that every character is a kid playing in the 80s. The game takes place in the past, and so it's kind of a simpler age. The technology is not as high. The kids don't have cell phones and things like that, but they do run into weird robots and weird science fiction phenomena. The game has... We're going to skip through here. It has a set of principles. And these principles do so much to establish the flavor that makes Tales from the Loop unique. So, principle 1. Your hometown is full of strange and fantastic things. 2. Everyday life is dull and unforgiving. 3. Adults are out of reach and out of touch. 4. The land of the Loop is dangerous, but kids will not die. 5. The game is played scene by scene. And 6. The world is described collaboratively. And so that covers so much ground. It establishes what the tone is going to be like. It establishes what the stories are going to be like. That these are kids that have these kind of dull, awful lives that get caught up in these incredibly wild and fantastical adventures, and that their parents don't really get involved because they don't believe that it's true, or they have their own concerns. They are out of reach and out of touch. So anyway, I want to show you the character creation system. Okay? Now, Chapter 2 goes through this enormous thing, all this world building of what it is like living by the Loop. And then Chapter 3 does the U.S. Loop. What is it like over here in New Mexico? And there's been, new art prepared for this as well. But then we're going to skip to the kids. This is the character creation system, and I love it. So when you create a kid, and oh boy, we have, there we go. We were getting a little outsized. Each player creates a kid, and the thing you do is you choose a type. These are like kid archetypes. These are kind of like character class, and we'll look at them in a minute. And then you choose all of these things, and this sounds very like there's a lot, but check this out. This is your entire character and all the choices that you make. So, as a kid, let's say this is one of my favorite classes, the bookworm, and it talks about, gives a little quick description. When you read, you travel thousands of miles to foreign countries. You speak with mad poets and discuss the meaning of life with philosophers who died hundreds of years ago. You have a secret rendezvous at Alpine Peaks and shootouts with Russian agents. So, this is the bookworm. There is the computer geek, the hick, the jock, the popular kid, the rocker, the troublemaker, and the weirdo. And they all are constructed in this same kind of basic model. And so the first thing you do is you decide your age. You can be anywhere from 10 to 15 years old. And you will get 15 points worth of stuff. Let's say that you are 15 years old. That means you get 15 skill points and no luck points. If you decide to make yourself 12, you'll get 12 skill points and 3 luck points. So it's the difference that makes those up. So the older you get, the better you are at doing things, but your luck goes down a little bit. Then you distribute the points into the skills, which are very simple, and we'll look at that in a minute. And then you start making these choices. So if you're the bookworm, first of all, your key skills. You can raise these up to skill level 3 if you want. Every other skill, you can take it, but it can only be at a 1 max. Then you choose one iconic item. And throughout the book, anytime there's something in orange, that means that's the US version. So if you're playing in Sweden, the dog's name is Pluton. But if you're playing in America, the dog's name is Tiny. And obviously, you can make up your own name for a dog, but it offers some options. So the iconic item of the bookworm is going to be a dog or an encyclopedia or a magnifying glass. Then you choose a problem. And in every case, you can make up your own if you want, but it gives suggestions. Nobody tells me how my dad died. My sister's really sick. That weird man is following me. And these are the problems that the character is going to be focusing on, which is a wonderful signpost to the game master of what kinds of stories you want to tell and what kind of obstacles you as a player want to overcome in the course of telling this story. So, do you want a weird mystery about your dad who passed away? Or do you want a weird mystery about how you're being stalked or about how your sister is sick? Whatever it's going to be, it's guaranteed to tie into the loop in some way. That there's some kind of weird phenomena doing this or causing this. So that's just part of your problem. Now, every character chooses a drive. The bookworm, the two they suggest, I want to find answers to the big questions in life, or I need something to brag about. So this bookworm really wants to brag about something, and so they're going to maybe go get themselves into a weird, dangerous situation that they shouldn't be in because they want to brag about something. The drive is what pushes you and motivates you. The pride, you make up one of these, or choose. The ones they have here is, I'm the smartest kid in school, or nothing scares me. And that is also going to change the way you play your character. Relationships to other kids, you choose one for each other kid in the group. And you can make these up, or their suggestions are, she is my competitor. I will make him or her love me. We are siblings and friends. So then you've got a direct connection building this backstory between all the other players. Then there's relationships to NPCs, extra people in your life. And you choose 2 of these. And again, you can make these up or use the suggestions. And the ones they suggest are fantastic. Mona, the school librarian, was my friend until she disappeared. I'm sure that the school janitor knows more than he's saying. And, they're all things like this. And in fact, a lot of the other ones will reference a lot of the same people. So there's another one in here, and the school janitor seems so lonely since Mona, the school librarian, disappeared. I wish I could help him. So this is a character who maybe has a stronger connection to that school janitor than to the librarian. Anyway, it's just a wonderful way of seeding your story with cool ideas. And of course, you can make up your own if you want to. There's also an anchor. An anchor is an adult that you can rely on. And so adults are out of reach and out of touch, but you still need one that you can go to when things get bad, because that's one of the primary ways of healing your character, is to go to your anchor. So in this case, it would be a mom and dad, a teacher, or a local author. And then it gives some suggestion on names. So all of these are just wonderful, and the way that you can define who your character is with just these simple little choices and choosing, your key skills and things like that is great. I'm going to shrink that back down. Another thing that you're going to need to do here is, I'm sorry, the number of points you get go to attributes. The points based on age go to attributes, not skills. I misremembered that. You get 10 points for skills regardless of your age. And so the way you actually play the game, let's look at this, is in scenes of trouble. Okay? And this is done, trouble is anything that is going to make your life harder. And you don't have to do big combats. The game very specifically does not have turn-based fighting or anything. Any kind of trouble you get into will be resolved with a single roll. And the way that those rolls work is... the dice roll. So, what you do is you figure out which attribute applies, and you grab that many dice, and you figure out which skill applies, and you add that many dice, and then you roll them. And if you get at least 1 6, you succeed. It is very rare you'll need more than 1 6. So let's say you've got an attribute of, your mind attribute. The 4 attributes are mind, body, heart, and then tech. So if you're going to do something, let's take a look at the skills. Is the skills over here? No. Where are the skills? Here's the skills. So, the body skills are sneak, force, and move. The tech skills are tinker. Come on. Keeps resizing the PDF every time I click on the table of contents. The tech skills are tinker and program and calculate. Contact is a heart skill. Contact is a fun one because that's just how good you are at knowing somebody that you could go to for help. So the example that it gives in the book is a police officer. If you need to know a police officer, then you need to know somebody, you just say, well, I'm going to use my contact skill for this. I think it would be really handy if I was friends with a police officer, so I'm going to roll that. And then you roll. And if you succeed, you're friends with a police officer. And if you don't, well, then something happens. So again, that contact skill, let's say your heart attribute, you've got 3 points in it, and your contact skill, you've got 2 points in it. So then you roll 3 plus 2, 5 dice, and you hope that at least one of them rolls a 6, and if it does, you succeed, and if it doesn't, then you fail. If you succeed more than once, you get extra 6s, then there are bonus effects that you can buy. So with the contact skill, the contact has all the right tools with her. The contact can heal one of your conditions. The contact brings more people who are also ready to help. So depending on how well you roll, you can buy all this extra cool stuff on top of that. It's a really slick, really simple little skill system. There's 4 attributes and 3 skills each, and they all have these neat little things to buy. And because you're not rolling 57 times just in one combat, you're just rolling once per trouble, you're able to use narrative tools to tell the story and to tell what happens. And there's extra little rules for how do you help each other, so you get extra dice. And there's a couple extra rules of if you're going to do something that should be impossible, then you're going to need extra successes in order to do it. But it's great. Now, let's go back and look at the trouble section again because we want to talk about conditions. like we said in the beginning when we looked at the principles, one of the core principles of this game is that the kids don't die. That's not what this is about. If they fail a skill roll, if they fail to resolve a trouble, more often than not, they'll still get what they want, but with some extra condition tacked on top of that, which is a really neat system. I love the way that it handles conditions. There are basically 5 conditions. Let's take a look at them. Where are they? Show us the conditions. Maybe I skipped over the conditions in my foolishness. Oh no, Suffer Condition Chapter 4. What? Okay, I know the conditions are around here. Anyway, the conditions are upset, scared, injured, some other thing, and broken. And I can't remember what the other thing is, and I can't find it in the book, but it's there, and you don't need to worry about me. Oh, here they are. I found them accidentally. Upset, scared, exhausted, that's the one I couldn't remember, injured, and broken. And so when you make a test on a trouble, let's say that it is a social test, that contact test that we were talking about. If you roll a success, then you know that police officer and they will help you. If you fail, you still know that police officer, but he's going to make your life hard in some way. And you are going to suffer either a story setback or an actual condition. And so maybe what that is you try to go talk to the police officer, and he's like, no, of course I'm not going to help you, and you better not get in there and start poking around on your own, because that's dangerous. And then you get maybe the upset condition or the scared condition or something like that. And each condition takes away one of your dice when you're trying to resolve a trouble. So instead of those 5 dice we rolled on contact, the next time we try to roll contact, we only get 4 because we're upset because the cop yelled at us and told us to stay away from the weird, mysterious thing in the woods. If you get multiple conditions, they stack up. And if you ever have to take the broken condition, which this can refer to physically broken, mentally broken, emotionally broken, whatever, then you just automatically fail whatever rolls you try to make, whatever trouble you're trying to solve. And so you need to deal with it. The way you deal with conditions is you go back to the anchors that I was talking about. So let's say that one of your anchors is your mother. You're that bookworm, and no one's ever told you how your dad died, but you've got a very close relationship with your mother. And so when it's time for you to get rid of a condition, maybe you are both scared and exhausted because you spent all night running away from a crazy loose robot in the woods, then you go to your mom in the morning and you need to have a scene with your mom. That's one of the core principles. The game is resolved scene by scene. And so you say, hey, Game Master, I need to do a scene where I can talk to my mom and get rid of this. And then you just play out a little short scene with each other where you bond over something, or your mother comforts you, you're able to confide in them in some way. They're out of touch and they're out of reach, but they're still your anchor. And after you play out that little kind of emotional scene, then the conditions go away and you're back. And this applies to broken as well. If you're completely broken, so you can't even function because you're so scared or so exhausted or whatever it is, then you can go to your mom or whoever your anchor is and get rid of that condition. It is such a neat system. And what I love about all of the mechanics in this game is that they help you create these really personal stories. It's not about counting hit points. It's about getting upset by something, upset enough that it impedes your function, and then having to go talk to your favorite teacher or to whoever it is, and then kind of get your moral fortitude back so that you can go out and solve this problem. So let's talk about the problems. The story that you tell is called a mystery. And a mystery is kind of broken into fairly discrete chunks. And obviously, you can do this however you like. You're not beholden to their very specific storytelling system. But I like the way that this is constructed. And it gives a lot of different ideas of what kinds of mysteries you could have. So, for example, in the human error mystery, a scientist has created a time machine that he has lost control of, and he's been thrown back into the Stone Age. The hole in the fabric of time is open, and creatures wander in and out. So maybe the mystery begins with your characters biking home from school in their small town in the winter, and they think they see a dinosaur in the woods. And of course, nobody believes them. And so, they can't talk to their adults, but they get their friends and they're like, hey, I think I saw a dinosaur in the woods. And one of them's like, well, that explains why I can't find my cat anywhere. And there's a great big, footprint next to my garbage can. And all these little stories pop up, and scene by scene, you try to investigate this mystery. Let's look at the structure system here. Where is it? Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. Phase 1, introducing the kids. Every mystery, and maybe this is 1 session, 2 sessions of storytelling time, however you want to use it. You start with a little scene where each player, each kid, one by one, gets a scene in which they can do something or talk to someone or introduce something. The establishing little bits of a story. And then phase 2, introducing the mystery. This is where you are biking home from school and you see that dinosaur. Or you go out to feed the cat and there's a weird noise and your cat's missing. I'm sorry that in my example I keep having a cat get eaten by a dinosaur, but that's part of the mystery. And then phase 3 is solving the mystery. This is kind of the largest section of the game, where scene by scene you're going to go out into the world and you're going to be like, well, let's see if we can find that dinosaur again. Or, whatever you're doing. And this is where the kids can work together and they can come up with ideas and solve this problem and figure out what the problem is. Then we move on, and it has a bunch of sections here about different ways to use maps and clues and things like that. And eventually you will arrive at the showdown, phase 4. We solved the mystery. We know where the dinosaur's coming from. We know that it's because of this portal, and we know what we have to do to solve it. We have to get the dinosaur back in the portal, we have to get the scientist out of the portal, and then we have to shut it down. The showdown is when we actually do those things. This is the big climax. This is the scene in Stranger Things where we're fighting the evil monster in the mall, and, however it works. And then phase 5 is the aftermath, where the kids get kind of a denouement falling action scene where they kind of recover a little bit if they've got some conditions they need to get rid of, things like that. And so, anyway, you get the idea. The book goes on and on. It has different ideas. It gives you some adventure ideas of what to do. It has a really great kind of what it calls the mystery landscape, which is more setting information and how to use the setting specifically in your game and how you're going to involve the map and the locations and the NPCs and all of that and bring them together. And we're really only about halfway through the book at this point, but the rest of it you can discover on your own. I've told you how to play the game, and I've told you that the game is amazing and cool. And if this is the game for you, you're probably already champing at the bit. If you want to be, kids on bikes in the 80s solving weird science fictional mysteries, this game is incredible, and you're going to love every second of it. I really love how innovative it is. I love how all the systems work together to tell a very cool and a very specific story in a simple and narrative way. Tales from the Loop is a really well done. It deserves the accolades that it gets. It deserves to be one of the only RPGs with its own Amazon series. Really great game. Definitely go pick this one up. Tales from the Loop. Thank you very much for watching this video. My name is Dan Wells, and you are awesome.